I think I cannot make a better introduction for Prabal, co-founder of Avail, also Polygon. Please, big of applause. All right, man. So, well, thank you so much for coming. First thing, I would love to ask you a little bit of your background, because I know you are coming from an academic background, but not crypto related. I mean, no one is coming from crypto. There is not like a DGen academy or anything. But if you can also tell us where you're coming from and how did you step into crypto the first time?
Yeah, I come from a world where crypto was known as cryptography. So I think it's very outdated right now. But largely, I had a more academic background, as you mentioned. Studied cryptography in college, computer science major, and then did 4 years of research in blockchains as part of cryptology and security research. And there that is when I went into this rabbit hole about how this is a confluence of many different fields of study that we have done, how blockchains are kind of, the synergy between economics, between computer science, between, real world interactions and game theory and so on and so forth. So it really piqued my interest at that point in time, and it's when I realized that there is so much more that we can do apart from doing theoretical research. Because one of the biggest criticisms that I had during my research is how applicable is my research to real world people. Like, is there a particular primitive that I'm building that actually people are using when I'm not asking them to use, right? So I didn't feel like that was happening quite often, because we were writing this extremely detailed papers. We are giving this big security analysis and so on. But at the end of the day, the end user doesn't care. So it kind of felt to me that we should work on something which people can directly use and interact with. And that's when I moved into the industry.
And now you are working in Avail as a co-founder. And how this idea, or what exactly did you find this problem that you found for data availability? How do you come up with this solution through Avail? And also, which 3 products are you building in Avail right now, and what are the most important for the Throughput bottleneck of AI?
Yeah, so I think for that, if I could go back a bit. So when I joined Polygon, right? I joined Polygon in 2020, and at that point in time, I was leading research at Polygon. At Polygon, we found out that a single chain will not work, right? So we knew that we needed scaling solutions. At that point in time, Polygon POS was almost the only scaling Ethereum solution out there. And while working on it, of course, it was cutting edge. It had one of the most tractions ever in the industry, and we faced, like, at scale, what are the problems that you face. We could see that in real time, and while solving for that, we realized that rollups are the future. We had to invest a lot into making a rollup-centric future possible. And for that to be able to scale as much as we want, we definitely needed DA. To kind of explain why that is true is that all the computations in a rollup have to be verified, right? If there is no verifiability of a rollup, it's not a rollup anymore. And when you want verifiability, you want to know that all the data behind those computations are available. And that is exactly the DA problem. So in a world where there are thousands of rollups, it would essentially need base layers which can support the data behind those thousands of computations. Without that, the rollup-centric roadmap just doesn't work. And then in 2020, we started working on the first versions of Avail. The name was not decided back then. We were just trying to think of what would be the design and the research would look like. From 2020 to 2023, we worked on Avail within Polygon, and then we spun it off to create a separate entity. As we realized that we need credibly neutral DA layers. We don't need a DA layer which is only affiliated to a Polygon or a Starkware or a ZK Sync or an Arbitrum or an Optimism. we have too many silos in the industry, and we do not need more silos, and we need more credible neutrality to exist in the industry, which can work for the public good. And that was the main forcing function behind spinning off Avail from Polygon. Since then, we have been trying to make the most complete stack to support the rollup-centric future. And while DA was the bottleneck and will be the bottleneck for considerable amount of time, we see that in this rollup-centric world, we are creating more and more fragmentation, and this fragmentation is causing users a lot of agony. So if you think about a random user, you want to go and onboard onto a new rollup, you have to think about what kind of funds do I need to bridge, from which do I need to bridge, how much activity will I do. Based on that, you have to think, okay, should I just bridge $100, but I do not know whether the bridge is secure, so maybe I should bridge $10,000, or maybe I should bridge $1, and then I should check, and so on, right? So we created too much onboarding friction for this industry by creating these rollups. And that was never the vision. The vision was always to have a horizontal scalable future where you do not have to think about how many rollups you're interacting with. It can be a single server, or it can be a fully decentralized set of rollup operators that you're interacting with. But to you, it should seem like a single entity. The biggest example that we give is like you open a website, let's say facebook.com or instagram.com, and you do not know how many servers are behind it. It might be a server just in this hotel, or it might be a server in San Francisco. You just don't care because it works as the same, irrespective of which server is hosting you. So those are the kind of things from which we kind of started working on Nexus and Fusion. We wanted to make sure that rollups not only have scalability through DA, but also interoperability through Nexus upgrade and economic security through the Fusion upgrade.
An explanation of the three products. Now, I want to ask you a question just for the people. If you know, you know. The question is, if I tell you 10 gigabytes, what would you say? And also give context to the people.
Yeah, so essentially 10 gigabytes is again a notional number. Just for who are not aware, we are publicly committed to building 10 GB blocks, and to be very, very clear, the 10 GB is just a notional number. You can talk about, like we internally talk about it as infinity blocks. The reason for that is we do not want block space to be a limit. We want blob space to scale as per the demand of the rollups that are using it. Like that is the future, right? Like you do not ask like Facebook about how many users can it serve. You do not ask Amazon about how many products can it ship. You do not want to ask Reddit about how many threads it can post. Essentially, no matter what the scale is, it can scale up its infra to reach to adapt to that scale, and that is the vision with 10 GB block roadmap that we have published. We want to make sure that the blob space never becomes a limit. Scalability doesn't hinder any work that is happening, any innovation that is happening in the space. We want seamless DA throughput. Along with that, a seamless interop and economic security guarantees.
Now moving a little bit more into the AI sector. You have been doing a lot of sessions and workshops from Avail account, which is the Vibe coding one. Vibe coding is taking a lot of mindshare as well. Everyone is talking about it. So how do you think Avail is positioning this to the users, and what are exactly the expectations that you're having with these workshops? You want to bring more adoption into AI, people building, and also the Avail idea. Do you want people also to use, in the end, Avail solutions, data layer, or all this, or?
Yeah, so Vibe coding is essentially a team sport event for us, right? So it's not that we just want to do it to show to the world what is able to be done. Like we do it every day. Every developer inside Avail use all the AI tools, and we actually use it as an extension of the Avail team. all the different AI tools. And again, depending on whom you ask, they will talk about either Claude or ChatGPT or DeepSeek or some of the more esoteric ones hosted inside a server or something like that, right? So we already had been going towards that journey, and one of the biggest proponents of that is the kind of the open source foundation over which we build all these products. Like one of the biggest things that attracted me to this industry was that how we build in the open. Like mostly, like we have been building so many convoluted and complicated algorithms that we are building. If it was any other industry, we would have built it in closed source. Like we would have built in behind closed doors. We would have thought about how can we not give it out to the world, how can we protect our IP from our competitor, and so on and so forth. But it is one of the few industries in the world where everyone builds in the open. And building in the open has its own pros. The pro is that we can share our experiences, and vibe coding is one of that. Like vibe coding is just our effort to show that what can be built in a 1 hour, in just 2 hours, which can have a lot of traction and a lot of good utility in the space because of the tooling that is available out there. There is a lot of documentation, a lot of existing tooling which we can build upon. So the foundations are already there. We just want to show that a real utility based tool is not far away. Even if someone doesn't understand the technology too much, even if someone is not aware of the existing tooling, of the existing infrastructure, of the existing technology out there, they can still build something which is valuable in this industry. And that is the reason why we are positioning vibe coding out there. Also, I just wanted to add, like, it's not just a Avail initiative. Like we have already invited Lens. In the coming days, you will see like almost all our ecosystem partners coming and jamming with us on the vibe coding sessions. The output is going to be pretty much the same. Like on the Lens thing, we wanted to show that what can you build on Lens, right? The Lens chain already has all the tooling that you would need to build a successful social-fi application on top. And we just wanted to show that what can you build today, which is non-existing, which has real PMF, which has real adoption on a chain which is massively growing, which has all the incentives, which you can be funded, you can be be marketing, we can do co-marketing, we can support in all the ways which we can without even understanding how a network graph looks like, or what is the representation of a network graph in a Python code. I don't want to know, and people should not need to know it about.
Very nice explanation. And now that we are discussing these vibe coding sessions and developers developing with AI, where do you see which is the bottleneck exactly in AI, and how do you think we should be solving this?
I think there are two ways to answer this, right? So one is, what is the bottleneck of AI today, and what I think is going to be the future bottlenecks of AI. So I think right now, many people here are more conversant about AI than I am. But right now there is a lot of different types of bottlenecks out there. One of the bottlenecks is the amount of parameters that you can handle within a particular model. I think it is slowly reaching the saturation point where you are seeing like 50-80 billion parameters is kind of the peak of the number of parameters that a model can handle, or it is useful to build something like that. So that is becoming one. The compute is of course always a bottleneck. Like your bottlenecks are right now all hardware based, and that's why you will see that the biggest benefactors of the AI movement have been the hardware players, not only just the software ones, right? So unless you can make more cutting edge devices which can support all the interactions and all the AI training and the modeling on top, you are not able to push the field to its limit. And this has always been the same. For example, today I think it's promoted a bit more, but in your recent mobile phones there is a neural processing unit, right? A processing unit which is optimized for processing AI queries. And you might think like, oh, AI is such a big revolution that processors are being added onto the mobile phone to make sure that that is true. But I think crypto has already seen that journey. I mean, maybe not Web3 space in general, but cryptography is so pervasive that there is a secure enclave inside your phone today. There is in every modern, and when I say modern, I mean 2016 onwards, any CPU that ever got built had a hashing primitive enabled, had a cryptography primitive enabled. So all the AVX instruction set and so on were so deeply embedded inside the processing systems of the world, inside the hardwares of the world, that you do not almost pay nominal cost or zero cost on any cryptographic operation that you do today. And that is why it is possible today to have HTTPS everywhere and so on. It's not a one-day movement where suddenly you kind of turn on a switch and all the websites in the world become HTTPS. That's not the case. It took years of work, years of fundamental work in order to reach that. So I think the limits of today is more on the hardware, but the limits of tomorrow is going to be on verifiability. And that's why we are, along with our partners, are working very hard to make sure that AI also has the same properties that we are trying to build on the Web3 space. I think the Web3 doesn't have any feet to stand on unless it is verifiable. I do not want to make a world which is heavily scalable, but it has no verifiability. And I think that is exactly Web 2. If you have all the properties that you want in Web 2, so why build and rethink all the infrastructure in the world? The only reason to rethink all the infrastructure is because you want verifiability. You want to know whether the query that you asked for has been processed by the exact model. You want to know that image that you are seeing has been generated by AI. You want to verify what was the query that was given for which this image has been generated. You want to know that if this is a deep fake, that this is actually a deep fake and not someone created it, or you want to have attribution on top of it. You want to restrict like access, and you want to have verifiable access control on top of it. I think that is where we need to move the needle to. We want to make sure that AI not only just proliferates all the people and all the agentic systems of the world, but also make it as verifiable as possible, because only then we will see a large scale adoption of this technology. Otherwise it will always feel like a niche, something which is on the edges and a bit on the gray area, because it is not verifiable.
Verifiability, very interesting question, very interesting answer. I was not thinking about it, but that was very good. Now also trying to think about the future, probably there are going to be it's going to be a tricky question, because there can be certain products. For example, now you made a partnership with Lens because Socialfy needs a lot of data solutions, no? Or maybe AI agents, these type of things. What do you think will be the next thing that will need a massive data solution that is going to be like the killer app that any AI tool is going to be using, and they need a data solution? What do you think about this?
So I think to answer that question, let's think of the world that we are trying to build, right? So we are trying to build a world where different agentic systems can talk to each other, can verifiably talk to one another, can interact without fear that the other agent is faking its response, right? So we want to build a world there. And again, maybe I make it sound like too much as the utopian system, but it's actually true, right? I mean, even today, if you think about all the infrastructure that we have built on the crypto industry, you will see that almost 70, 80 or even more number of interactions are actually from bots, right? So it's not like the users are going and clicking all the buttons. It's actually most of the interactions, even in the crypto industry, is through agentic systems or bots, or however you want to call them. So in the AI world also it will be similar. And in that kind of a world, what we would need is, you would need to know that all the compute and the AI model queries and the responses that were done were actually published somewhere so as to make it verifiable later. There are two main problems with that. The one is that if you think about the AI models today and them working at scale, none of them have the ability to actually reliably keep the data in distributed systems. Forget DA layers, they cannot even keep it in distributed systems. And that had been a big problem, even not today, but I think years back in the the Large Hadron Collider and such, because they generated so much amount of data that it was almost impossible to keep it in a single server. They had to build specialized systems for it to keep just the data available later. And so the similar bottlenecks are going to arise in the AI agent space and the verifiable AI space, and that's where we would need more and more of encrypted DA solutions. Some of that we are working, that is MPC based solutions, that is ZK based solutions and such. But even without that, we would need a lot of zero knowledge compute, and we are already seeing a huge amount of work, a huge amount of progress being done in the ZK space. If you follow it for the last 5 years, I think there has been a huge amount of improvement. Like I remember in 2020, when we were in Polygon, we were thinking of the ZK systems. The primitives that we had access to were so mundane. Like there was almost nothing. You had to write circuits by hand, and for that also you had very little tooling. I think when Circom came, a lot of this tooling came, and today I think RIS0, SP1, you name it. Like I think 6-7 very good general purpose ZK VMs in production today, where you can take any RISC-V program or even a Rust program and just compile it and make it provable. So those kind of things we are already seeing, and in 2-3 years of time, we will see like the bottlenecks being that of making sure that it is verifiable, and what are the tools that we need. What is the privacy primitive that you want? What is the publication primitive that you want? What is the interoperability, or how the agentic systems talk to one another and so on that you want? And there we are seeing a lot of good work already being done. For example, we have a partner called Space and Time, who have a primitive called proof of SQL. So what they do is they let agents query using SQL and give a proof that the query was done correctly. So these are the smaller primitives which are actually seeing massive amount of adoption, because people do not know how to do verifiable machine level code execution at this point in time.
All right. Next question is going to be maybe also a little bit. You're going to talk a little bit more about the Nexus part and the interoperability. But do you envision a future that is centric in terms of rollups? And do you see Avail as the connector layer of all of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is why we are building Nexus, just to make sure that we are talking, we understand the same problems that it's making today. If you think about all the different rollups in the world, right? So there are, I think, 50 plus rollups today, and if you think about the reason why probably you haven't used any one of them, is because probably you do not see a particular application which needs you do not know how to bridge funds, you do not know why will you use it, you do not know what is the security guarantee of that particular rollup, you haven't done enough research, you haven't seen much traction, you are not seeing them enough on Twitter. That might be a plethora of reasons for you to not use a particular rollup, right? And that is fine. That is not what we are trying to enable. We are not trying to force people to use all the rollups that are there in the world. That's not the goal. The goal is to make sure that we make the foundations for a world where application specific rollups thrive. So for example, you want to do social interactions, you want to use a decentralized social platform, that Lens is the one to go, right? So you are not thinking about what is the chain you are interacting with, you are thinking about the application that you want to interact with. You do not open Instagram because you like Mark Zuckerberg, maybe you just hate him, right? So, and that is fine. You do not open Amazon because you like Jeff Bezos's latest tweet. that might not be the case. And sadly, we have started creating cults in this ecosystem, which is not helpful for mass adoption. Mass adoption will come when applications can scale boundlessly, and there is enough meaty use cases for those applications in order to attract users voluntarily into it. And that is the world that we are building for. We wholeheartedly believe app specific thesis, where different chains will be very, very application specific, because that is when the magic happens. Like if you are building a web server today, what you will do is probably you will take off the shelf any solution, any front end, any back end stack, and you will just code your application logic. But as you gain more and more traction, you will see like, okay, maybe React doesn't work for me. I want something more tailor-made for me. You want to go one level deeper. You want to go make sure that you are writing your backend in Rust rather than in JavaScript or TypeScript or whatever, right? So those are the kind of tidbits and the details that you get to choose and you get to optimize for when you make it for an application specific stack. And that's the world for which we are trying to build. In that kind of a world where all these applications are independent chains making sovereign choices, it is important to connect them all, because you are not you do not use Instagram just because you open the Instagram app. You sometimes get redirected from WhatsApp because your friend sends you a Instagram reel link, right? So unless you can click the link and go to Instagram, half of Instagram's traffic will go away if it's only about the organic traffic. It's the same with Twitter, it's the same with anything, right? So it's all about being able to go from one platform to the other in a seamless manner, where you do not have to juggle between which wallet, which device, which particular account, and so on and so forth. So that is the kind of world which we want to build, a world where applications thrive and can make sovereign choices. They have seamless scalability on the DA layer, but at the same time they can talk to one another, they can send verifiable messages from one to the other, they can interact with one another without having to know like which specific types of VM it is running on, which specific type of sequencer choice, which is a centralized sequencer or a decentralized one. Is it a stage 1 rollup or a stage 0 rollup or a stage 2 rollup? Is it an EVM rollup? It is a BNB rollup? It's a Solana network extension? Like these are the details which we get lost in today. But in a world where a random person comes and uses this technology, none of this should matter. It should only be discussed in closed doors, maybe in panels like this. But beyond the doors of this, I don't think it has much place in the real world.
Now that we are running a little bit out of time, I'm going to give you two super rapid questions. Okay, you can just answer with a yes or a no. First one is, developers will be replaced by agents?
No.
And second, which is?
I don't think you agree, but yeah.
It's difficult. I'm not a developer, so.
Yeah, for the sake of the developers on my team, I would say no. I mean, just one line there is like, it's going to be much easier, but it can never replace the truly niche that a real developer worth their salt has too much specific information for them to be replaced today.
Makes sense. I mean, I'm not a developer, that's why I prefer to ask you. And the last one is AI a passive narrative?
No. I mean, AI can be a passive narrative, but the movement is going to stay for a very, very long time. I mean, you can say that L2 was a passive narrative. It doesn't matter, because people are making chains. More and more L2s are coming up, even though the narrative is not there. So it's not about what we talk about, it's about what we are doing. And for times to come, at least for the next 4 or 5 years, AI is here to stay in some shape or form, whether we talk about it as AI, whether we talk about it as something new, as agentic systems, as machine learning back, or just statistical systems, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabal. Big of applause.
Thanks a lot.